So we've got the two coats of flat latex brown paint applied to the top decks of our modules. That looks pretty good, quite a difference from what we had there before. So let's bolt the modules together, Tom's 4 modules, and let's see what it looks like. You'll recall that we installed some T-nuts for alignment bolts. So we're taking a 5/16 by 1.5 inch bolt here, and we're bolting the two modules together. Let's bolt the other modules and see what it all looks like. So we've got Tom's 4 modules all nicely bolted together. And that looks pretty good, even if I do say so. We're looking at 16 feet of module. There's only one problem though. We've got the modules supported on lawn chairs. Not exactly a good idea, so I think we're going to have to somehow make some legs. Our next step is to fabricate some legs that our modules can stand on their own 2 feet or 4 feet or 6 feet. I've got an example here. At this end we've got a threaded bolt. The thread is sticking out 3/4 of an inch. That's what's going to be screwed into the gusset in each corner of our modules. And at the other end I've got a leg leveler, and the leg leveler is screwed out. And so our module standard for the Dirty 30 and 30 module gang is to have a height from the floor to the top of the rail of 45 inches. So the question then becomes, how long should we chop up the wood? We're using some 2x2s. How long should we chop up the wood so that we can fabricate some nice legs? The standard for the Dirty 30 and 30 module gang requires height from the top of the rail to the bottom of the floor of 45 inches. Your standards may be different from ours. The question is, how long should the wooden part of our 2x2 legs be? So I've made a model here of what our cross-section of the module looks like. At the bottom we've got our gusset, that's 3/4 of an inch. And then we have our styrofoam 1.5 inches, and then we've got the track and the roadbed. That's about 1/4 of an inch. So that adds up to 2.5 inches. So we've accounted for 2.5 inches of the 45 inches that we need for our module height. At the other end we have the thickness of the foot of our leg leveler. That's 3/4 of an inch. And we have the 1 inch of the leg leveler that's threaded out. That's going to help us level out our modules when we have uneven floors on our setups. So 1 inch and 3/4 of it, that's 1 3/4 inches that we've also accounted for in the 45 inches we need for our height. The threaded bolt on our leg screws into the gussets that we have in each corner of our module. Here we've threaded the leg into our model of the gusset. Remember, we epoxied a T-nut into the gusset, and this is what our leg screws into. So at one end we've accounted for 2.5 inches. The other end we've got 1 3/4 inches. So that adds up to 4 1/4 inches that we've accounted for in the height of our modules from the floor. So if we subtract 45 inches from 4 1/4 inches, we get 40 3/4 inches, which is the length that we've got to cut our 2x2s to get our leg. Time to get cutting. So remembering to measure twice and cut once, let's just verify those numbers. We've got the gusset thickness, that's 3/4 of an inch. Then we've got our styrofoam, 1.5 inches. The track in the roadbed is 1/4 of an inch, so that gives us a total at the top for 2.5 inches. And then at the bottom we've got the height adjustment to account for unevenness on the floors, so where we do our setups. And we've got the thickness of the leveler foot, and the subtotal for our bottom is 1 3/4 inches. So if we take the total at the top, 2.5 inches, and the total for the bottom, 1 3/4 inches, we end up with 4 1/4 inches that we've accounted for out of the 45 inches for the height of our module from the floor to the top of the track. So we have our height standard of 45 inches. We subtract the 4 1/4 inches that we've accounted for at the top and the bottom of the leg, and so we end up with a length of 40 3/4 inches that we have to cut the 2x2s to. But the 2x2s are actually 1.5 by 1.5 inches. That's another story. Let's get on with the cutting.